right, everybody, welcome back to the Millennial Sales Podcast. Tommy Tahoe, Lamo in the house. It's November 20th, 2023, Monday. We got a cool episode. We're bringing it back. We're going to start doing some pods. First one I'm going to bring back here is I was a guest, actually, on the Shake Sales podcast with Sujan Patel, who's the founder of Mailshake, company that focuses on email deliverability. He and I talked for about 15 minutes about the inner game of sales, why that's going to be so important going into 2024. And, we're going to get into that for today's show. Afterwards, in following episodes, I want to give you a heads up on what's going to be going on around here. Yes, I'm going to start creating some content. It's been crazy in my first year of entrepreneurship. And one of my goals for this year was to create a content machine. And I've done that in some areas and fallen off the mat in others. This podcast has fallen a little bit. So in my consistency. So I'd like to pick it back up. I'm going to be doing some solo episodes. I'll be doing some interviews. I'm also going to do something new. We're having a guest host come in, and he's going to run a few episodes by himself. And we're going to see if he likes it, if you guys like him, if it's a vibe. Blake Hudson. Blake Hudson, good friend of mine. You might know him through the world of LinkedIn. He's been a guest speaker on my boot camps before and things like that. But Blake is really an expert in the world of sales development. He was most recently a sales development manager at Tapcart. Before that, director of enablement at Rework. Before that, running sales development over at Victory Lap. He's one of the most known people on LinkedIn when it relates to sales development and confidence building. And he's helping people right now around storytelling, story selling, interview prep, things like that. And so Blake's going to have some episodes. He's going to put out some content. I'm stoked to see what he's got. I've actually listened to some of the episodes. They're quite good. And I think he's got a knack for the podcast. So would love to hear. We're going to start producing those and putting those out next week. So I'd love to hear what your feedback is once we get him in the ring. So you'll see some of him, you'll see some of me, and we'll get this thing flowing. So without further ado, here's my episode from the Shake Sales Podcast, and stay tuned for future episodes of Blake. Let's go. All right, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by 7-Figure Prospecting Bootcamp. This is a cohort-based sales program that I put together and run. Most people right now, salespeople, SDRs, founders, AEs, sales leaders, are struggling to hit their pipeline goals. They're trying to solve it by winging it every day. They might read a sales book. They might take an on-demand course that leaves them really craving some one-on-one attention and coaching. And so that's why I created this bootcamp. It's 30 days, intensive coaching, cohort style, run by me. So every week you're going to get live calls with me teaching you the fundamentals of prospecting, how to sell to the problem, cold email, time management, cold call, all that. Use your sales tools to build massive amounts of pipeline. You're going to get office hours with me where you can get one-on-one coaching. We're going to have amazing guest speakers. Former speakers have been Ian Cognac, Samantha McKenna, Justin Walsh joined us one time, just some badasses in the space. And then tap into community. Got dozens of other like-minded salespeople in the trenches with you, learning and growing, that you can learn from, that you can chat with, that you can build community with. So that's all packaged together. The next cohort starts January 2nd. Love to see you there. Exclusively for podcast members, people that listen to the podcast, you can check out the link in the profile or on my LinkedIn page. It's also on tasales.co. But if you type in the code podcast, you will get 20% off your order. So go check out at the checkout line. Use the coupon code podcast. That's PODCAST to get 20% off. All right, now to the episode.
Welcome to another episode of Shake Sales. Today I got Tom from TA Sales. I'm super pumped to talk to you about the inner game of sales. First, welcome, Tom.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
Love it. So let's jump in. What the heck is the inner game of sales? That sounds
Yeah. So
cool, but I'm like so lost.
yeah. So, oftentimes when people want to learn about sales, they jump straight to the books about what should I put in my cold emails? What questions should I ask on a discovery call? What do I ask
Hmm.
in a negotiation from Chris Voss? And in my experience, what actually that stuff matters, but that's like the last 10%. The first 90% that you need is working on what I call the inner game, which is what's going on between your ears, what's going on in your mind, what's your psychology like, what's your mindset like how what are the goals that you're going after, what's the vision that you have for your career, and why are you actually doing what you're doing every day. And anyone that's been in sales for long enough knows that it's a tough job. You're getting no's all the time. You've got constant pressure, quota to hit. You're not paid particularly well in the early stages of your career. And there's a short string between you and getting to a promotion, or you potentially being, on the cutting block to getting on a performance plan. And so with all that pressure, it's really hard to perform at a high level and with empathy with a client and ask great questions and not be attached to the sale with all that pressure. And so working on the inner game, we can get into more details of what that exactly like might entail. But to me, that's where I push people to focus on either first, but also as they reach different stages in their career to make sure that, internally they're set to get to wherever they want to get to.
Love it. Yeah. So it's like really thinking about the strategy versus the tactics and the nuggets, and then proportion, like right sizing it, right? If you're thinking and obsessing over the last 10% and you're struggling to get conversations, you're really just focusing on the wrong things.
Yeah, I mean, we know that 93% of communication is not the words you speak. It's your tone, it's your body language, right? So a lot of that's coming from confidence. And how am I going to develop confidence? It's not going to be reading a book about like the best cold call opener, right? It's like doing some inner work to make sure that I actually feel like I'm ready to go make that cold call. I'm ready to have that conversation. And if I'm in there in a meeting with someone and I need to transfer enthusiasm and I need to have empathy and I need to like be connected to them and whatever business problem we're trying to solve, I need to be feeling right. I can't be hungover and perform well. I can't come off a fight with someone in my family or friends and then get in there well. I can't be drastically unhealthy and then show up and expect to perform my best. It's just not a long-term strategy for success. So it's really working on you. The better person you can become, the better salesperson you can become, in my opinion.
Love it. Yeah, I think spot on. So you have a 30-day boot camp. Tell me about that. Like how do you help folks kind of get in and work on their inner sales game?
Yeah, so there's really two things that I do. So the boot camp is really it's heavily focused on prospecting. So we do talk about tactics. I'm not anti-tactic. We get into cold emails and cold calls and things like that. But we do also focus on some major questions that SDRs have, like why am I reluctant to make a cold call? Why am I hitting skip on all of those tasks? How do I deal with the constant pressure of monthly quota and making sure that I can be even keel through rejections and things like that. So we do talk about that. I focus even more on the inner game with some of the sales retreats that I co-host. So these are 3-day retreats where the majority of the conversation is the inner game. We're going deep into meditating. You'll see pictures of us doing cold plunges on LinkedIn. We're those people, and doing breath work and writing out like what's our vision for the next 5 to 10 years and like really doing a lot of that deep work. But in the boot camps, a lot of it is like mental, mindset. How do I get up and just like be positive and, actually believe that today, I'm going to be able to pull through on that next cold call with positivity and with confidence rather than getting down on ourselves when things get hard.
I love it. Yeah, I think that some of the things you talked about here help with longevity, avoid a burnout, really just like if you think about life and your working career, you're working professionally, a human these days is kind of 30, 40, 50 years. Um, I've seen so many sales reps go hard and then burn out. They either change careers, take a break. If you start to think about those, like you think about your like off years, like the ones where you're not peak or you're burned out or whatever, you're effectively losing money, and you average it out and you're like, okay, my average is not great, even though I had like some best years making double, triple quota. Is because you kind of like overdid it, or you didn't work on the right things to keep the longevity. So I love it. So let's jump into kind of like the like really thinking about the breath work or the cold plunges. Like, where do you like? So I get that value from like a health and wellness retreat. Why does that help salespeople? What does that do?
Well, let's think about like the average life of a salesperson right now. We talked about all the stress and everything that goes on, right? We're also mostly working from home, right? I'm in my apartment with my dog all day long. I'm staring at a computer screen, having conversations. And if I win, I go high five my dog. And if I lose, maybe he's there to comfort me. But that like, throughout the workday, that's it, right? So we're isolated, obviously, since COVID. We've got all of this pressure. And, if we think about salespeople later in their career, maybe they've been in for 5, 10 years, maybe they're doing well on the scoreboard, right? And they're making a bunch of money and they're hitting quota and they're, selling big accounts. But something feels a little off inside, right? Like that's where the inner game, and I've been there. I've been at the point where I've made more money. This is my best W-2 year ever. I feel like crap inside, right? Or I'm doing all these things professionally and I'm making moves. I got my side hustle, but like, shoot, I haven't hung out with my friends in 6 months because all I've been doing is working. And so there's this balance of like, yeah, we need to like, I'm all for grinding. I'm all for working hard. I'm all for like pushing it and like, making the extra call. And also, how do we add in those periods of time where what are our daily practices to make sure that we're feeling good? How are we involved in a community, whether it's locally where you are, if you have some sort of group of people that you can see, or even virtually, if that's better for you, that people that are like-minded, that you can connect with, that you can grow with, that you can have support each other and share things. And so it's really trying to work on like being a more balanced professional and person. To me, if I take if I take 30 minutes less of, doing administrative sales tasks, and I use that for some of like the inner game work, and I do that and I go for a workout, or I do some yoga, or I do some meditation, like I'm ready to go, and my performance and my quality of work is way higher. So it's actually something that, in my opinion and what I've seen, can help you sell more and make more money if you actually just switch up some of the things that you're doing and insert some of this into like the normal flow that you have.
Love it. Love it. All right. So I want to end with really, what tips do you have or advice do you have for new sales reps? So I feel like, the folks that have joined kind of post-COVID in the sales world are getting their butts whooped right now, right? Because in the last 2 years, everyone was buying, right? 2020, 2021, early 2022. And then all of a sudden it's like screeching stop, got to save money. The people you're selling to are laid off, like all these things. I imagine they're like kind of down in the dumps right now. What do you have for those folks?
Man, I mean, it's a really hard time. Again, not only that, but also like when I started in sales, I was in a sales pit for the first like 6 years of my career, right? And like every single day I was in the office and people would hear you book a meeting, everyone's cheering for you. You get reamed out on a cold call and people are like, dang, man, that was tough, but like we're all there for you, like giving you a pat on the back or whatever it might be. And right now, the same thing. It's like we're in, our studio apartments in San Francisco or wherever you're located, making 100 cold calls a day. Like that's a tough life. So that's why I think investing in like community, it's like you've got to find a peer group. Like first and foremost, one, invest in your skills. Go buy a book. Like add the $15 a month to buy a book that might help you out into your budget for the month, and find a community of like-minded people. There's plenty of them. I can give some recommendations, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, whether it's you just grabbing 5 of your SDR buddies and having dinner once a month or something like that. But you've got to have people in your corner, or else the constant no's and all of the adversity you're going to face is just going to wipe you out. And more than half of salespeople quit within the first year. And I do think that it takes that first year of just like getting through a lot of tough stuff to actually get to the rewards. Like there's not many rewards in year one. All the rewards come after that of the promotion and higher, commission rates and all that type of stuff. So you got to keep going, invest in yourself, community, and if that all fails, then DM me on LinkedIn and maybe I can help you out somehow.
Love it. Thanks so much. Yeah, I think the community, I think for any role, community, friends, connections, like one of the things I did, I moved to from SF to Minnesota. I knew nobody. And I'm like, I just like pinged marketers. I was a head of marketing at a startup in Minnesota, and I just pinged marketers in the area. I'm like, hey, want to go grab coffee? Like, and it was just like the never eat alone was really for me the savior of like going into a new place. And now I practice that anywhere I go. But same thing, community is a very important part, who you know and folks, because they can help you unlock stuff or, hey, I'd be there to help pick you up. Tom, thanks so much. Where can people go to sign up for your bootcamp and or also follow along in your journey?
Yeah. Best place is going to be on LinkedIn. So Tom Malemo on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I check every single DM, so feel free to DM me if you listen to this and you liked it. And if I can help you in some way, feel free to let me know.